How's everybody doing today? A great day to you all. And we're going to talk about the DCU. We're going to talk about Superman, the DC Comics, and a certain emphasis that Zack Snyder had on Superman, which I think is very interesting. We're going to go into a little bit of geekdom. Today, we're not going to use a passage of scripture off the bat. I'm not going to read from a passage of scripture off the bat, but trust me, we're going to get to scripture. We definitely will. Let's get right into it. You can leave your comments in the chat section. Leave your comments in the chat section. Let's get on with it. I'll try and get back to you guys in the chat section when I can. Let me just make sure I can link up with you guys right now so I can always pop into the chat section, see what's up, and then pop back out, okay? So here's the chat section right here. Keeping my eye on that. Cool. All right, let's just get right into what we're going to talk about so you guys can see what I'm talking about. We're going to start with some trivia, just some nerdy boy trivia. All of those little nerd fans out there. 1 second. Thought I had this thing up and I didn't have it up, so let me just get it there. Yes, so we're going to get some nerd boy trivia here right now. I'm going to screen share. Okay. So the first thing is just some nerd trivia, really. It's kind of deep, but it's nerd trivia. And that is to say, when you look at Man of Steel, there's a certain point in Man of Steel where Clark Kent has just finished saving some workers off an oil rig that exploded. And Clark was submerged underwater from the explosion. And there he goes into sort of trance, if you want, and he remembers his past, how he started to develop his powers, you know, how humanity, his mother, helped him to focus his powers, helped him to sort of ground himself. And then he kind of comes out of that trance. He kind of wakes up from the trance and he swims to shore, okay, from the ocean. Or we know that he ends up on shore. We don't know exactly if he swam to shore, somebody took him to shore, whatever. The humpback whales tell us something. So, you know, if you've paid attention, you'd see those humpback whales again in the DCEU. But suffice it to say, when he comes back up on shore, we begin to understand the context in which his story is going, okay? And there are two things that are really cool that are Easter eggs, which any nerd, you know, checking out and investigating things would find these Easter eggs very interesting. One of them is the number on the house where Clark ends up coming on shore nearby. And when he reaches up on shore, he steals some of the clothing. As you can see there, he's testing out some clothing on the clothing line. And he also steals some of the clothes from a car, which is next to the house, through which a gentleman, it seems as though he was a fisher or something, fisherman or something. He you know, has winter clothing. He opens up his stuff to drop off some groceries for this lady you see here. And as he's dropping off his groceries, I guess he lives there. Clark comes up. The guy is not looking. He steals some of the guy's clothes, as you see here, puts it on, and keeps on moving. Now, the house number is an Easter egg that points to a particular thing. And also the music that's playing in the background is another Easter egg. And all of these describe Clark's present situation. So The Adventures of Superman, issue number 536, is actually entitled Identity Crisis. Oh, yeah, Identity Crisis. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see that. Let's get it nice and sharp there. There you go. Okay. And chapter 1 is about cages. Okay. About being kind of trapped. And it's very interesting. At this point, a stage in Clark Kent's life, he has an identity crisis himself. He does not know who he is. He does not know who his parents are. And therefore, he doesn't really know exactly where he's from. So he has an identity crisis. And then you see him, as in the story, where in this case, Brainiac moves Superman's consciousness into another person and Brainiac invades Superman's body. In this case, we see Clark Kent. He takes the clothing from this guy here, from his car, and clothes himself as if he is like everyone else. So he moves from what, you know, clearly he's something else, to he tries to adopt that identity of someone else. And throughout Clark's life, as he's trying to find out who he is, he's sort of going by different aliases: Greenhorn, Joe, etc. Okay. Joseph is his name, don't get me wrong, but you know, he's going by different aliases. Now, why this is interesting is because, as I said here, Clark's identity is because when you listen to the song Seasons by Chris Cornell, it's interesting what it actually says. So it says, summer nights and long warm days are stolen as the moon falls, and my mirror shows another face, another place to hide it all. So he's saying that the summer nights and the warm days, he doesn't have the joy of them anymore because that old moon, he's saying, I'm coming of age, I'm growing, I'm getting older, is showing me and my mirror a face that actually is not really one I recognize all the time. So my mirror shows another face. That means I'm getting older. All right. This guy was Seasons by Chris Cornell is about getting older and your dreams and so on being sort of passed away and your identity sort of being flushed away. And he says, I'm lost behind the words I'll never find. I'm left behind as seasons roll on by. Identity crisis, right? He's saying, you know, I couldn't find my dreams. I couldn't find, you know, those words. I really wanted to say, oh man, I did it. You know, I attained my dreams. And he's saying he kind of gave up on his dreams. He's saying, I'm lost behind those words I'll never find. I'm left behind as seasons roll on by. Okay. And it's interesting because that's kind of the mood that Clark's in. Clark doesn't know what's going on. He's trying to find his identity. He's trying to find himself. He's trying to find his dreams. He's trying to find his purpose. And so that word literally, that song literally sort of symbolizes, sorry, not symbolizes, that's a new word, symbolizes what's happening to him. Okay. And the comic as well is identifying that. And so this meme was just explaining that, which some people found very interesting and useful. And again, this just shows you how deep Zack Snyder is when he goes into something. And this is just trivia as far as I'm concerned, compared to what I'm about to talk to you guys about, which I think has relevance to you. But he's talking about, you know, in Man of Steel, he talks about embarking on a journey. Basically, Clark is embarking on a journey to find out who he is, his purpose for existence. And we see him steal clothing to cover up his identity, to blend in as he tries to figure out who he is. So again, here, as like the song was talking about stealing away, you know, those great days, those past days, those days, you know, I don't have any joy in them anymore. Similarly, Clark here, you can see he's not very joyful either. He's kind of trying to figure out who he is, and his days are going without a sense of purpose. Your days just roll on by, and you're just kind of left behind, you know, just hanging in there, just floating from day to day. So that's basically what the song's saying. Identity crisis was about a crisis that happened with Superman over his identity, which had to do with Brainiac. It's a slightly different storyline and everything, but it's interesting that, you know, the metaphorical parallels are still there. Now, I don't know how many of you guys had dreams when you were younger and you found yourself sort of drifting along because those dreams weren't becoming a reality and you felt lost. Your identity, you felt lost because you didn't know what was your purpose, what was your ideology. You were fueled by certain things when you were younger, but now they're gone. You know, people like to talk about broken dreams and all that nonsense. And a lot of people have that. A lot of people had huge hopes, huge dreams, huge aspirations when they were younger, and as they get older, those things have to go to the side and they kind of have to focus on other things like the grind, surviving, you know, taking care of family, whatever. And the things that really made you want to live and really go for it, and all that spark in life that you had in you kind of got lost. And that's what these songs are kind of like. And it's interesting that Clark now, he has this challenge because he does not know how to live up to his potential, his purpose. And he's at that point in his life, 30 something years later, where he doesn't know what he is, you know, he's just kind of drifting from job to job to job, trying to find out who he is and trying to get the clues to piece that puzzle together, which his father told him, you need to find out who you are, son, and what your purpose is here. And a lot of us drift along because we don't have that purpose. And a lot of us actually, and this is what this whole video is about, we basically underperform to our true potential. I don't care how old you are. We underperform from our true potential. In fact, some of us achieve quite a lot in life and still we've underperformed for more true potential. So I want to talk about that. And we got so much to cover. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to try. We're going to try and get it done, right? And you know, that's why I like these particular DCU comics, because they have some oomph to them, as the actor who was playing Commissioner Gordon said. Let me just go to the chat section, see you guys, entertain you guys, entertain your comments in the chat section. So let me get to the chat section. I'm trying to get to the chat section, folks. I'm trying to get there. Oh, there you are. We are there at the chat section now. And nobody has said anything in the chat section. Cool. I'm keeping it rolling. So that's how it mirrors the comics and also the music. I thought it was a pretty cool little Easter egg in there. I don't know if you guys picked it up or you saw it anywhere else. Let me know if you have. Here's another one. And this is an Easter egg from the comics. This one's a little bit more trivial than the other one I just spoke about, which is that, you know, there was a moment in Man of Steel where we saw this polar bear, and polar bears tell us that we're somewhere near the North Pole. We're close to the North Pole. So these polar bears that we saw somewhere on the ice, moving through the ice, and then we moved from the polar bears to the Kryptonian ship. I find this very interesting. Trust me, this is an interesting scenario. And something else comes off after the scenario. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But it's just very interesting. We see this Kryptonian ship here a distance away on a plateau of ice and land, and there's the sun in the background. All of that stuff is, I think, pretty essential. But the comic that this actually is pulled from is DC Comics presents Superman and Black Canary. And this is just trivia, but there's some significance to it, so we'll get into it. So here's the comic that it was pulled from, which is DC Comics presents Superman and Black Canary. And the actual comic's name is A Dream of Demons. All right, and this comic was issued in 1981. And Black Canary, she's coming down onto this island here, as you can see, and she's pulling in her chute. And if you look off to the horizon here, you're going to see what is a doorway here with a sort of keyhole. And this is the Fortress of Solitude you're looking at in the distance there. Black Canary is there. And then a polar bear approaches Black Canary. You can read all the details if you want by freezing this, or if it's good enough. I don't know how clear it is to you guys. Let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see it a little bit better. Anyway, there's a polar bear that approaches Black Canary and attacks her, but it has a damaged paw. And so she's able, as you can see here, to basically knock the polar bear over. She kicks it over. Okay, the polar bear falls into some ice. He's about to drown because he can't swim out. Superman comes and saves the polar bear. Okay, drives him off. Polar bear is holding his damaged arm, and then Superman takes Black Canary off and is flying her to the Fortress of Solitude. In case you didn't know, this is the entrance to the Fortress of Solitude. Here is the Fortress of Solitude. All right, and if you look here, the fortress's entrance is this. So Superman, there's this big old keyhole there for the Fortress of Solitude, and he has to take this huge fortress key and push it into that keyhole, and he opens the lock to the Fortress. So I know it's ridiculous, but nonetheless, I just wanted to point out that is the Fortress of Solitude's entrance, right? For those of you who didn't know. So what I found about that was pretty interesting is that the scene that we saw up here with this polar bear, and then we saw Superman in what would be equivalent of the Fortress of Solitude, which would be the Kryptonian scout ship that's on top of there. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty awesome. And we'll get back to the Kryptonian scout ship in a little bit. But I just wanted to point out this little Easter egg that was in Man of Steel. I think some people pointed it out, but I don't think they actually showed the actual comic and where it came from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? This has never been done before. We never seen no polar bear in association with Superman and no Fortress of Solitude in live action. Never seen it, right? And these are the little details that Zack Snyder painstakingly takes so to let you know that he been delving into the comics. You know what I'm saying? I love those kind of little things. I don't know if you guys might nerd out on that. I don't know. But Man of Steel was a really awesome film. And again, I want you to pay attention to a couple things, okay? The sunlight in the background of this Kryptonian ship, where the polar bear is doing his thing. There's the sunlight in the background of the Kryptonian ship. And remember that, okay? We're going to come back to that in a minute. All right, now we're going to get into some things that are a little bit deeper. But let's just start off the bat. If you notice, in Hope Never Dies ad that was for Justice League, we start off with Superman, all right? We start off with Superman. See his posture and everything here, and he is in front of the sun. You notice the sun is shining behind him. What did I say about that? I just talked to you guys about the sun right here, right? Now remember, he wasn't Superman at this point in time. He just first time he gone, you know, on this Kryptonian ship. He's gone to the North Pole. Obviously, he's on the North Pole there on top of some kind of thing. Remember, they were in Canada, so at the end of Canada is the North Pole, right? Alaska's a little bit above Canada. So anyway, he's at the North Pole. There's the sunlight in the background. He's about to dawn to become Superman, right? Look at that. There's the sunlight behind him. Now, there's a lot I want to say about that, but I'm going to reserve it for a little bit later as I'm talking about this video, right? Let me just check to see if you guys have any comments in the chat section. I'll keep on dipping in and out, okay? I'll keep on dipping in and out for you guys. Okay. So let me get back to what I was saying. So, yeah. There's the sunlight. It's like he's radiating. It's like he's a saint or something, right? He's emitting light from himself almost. Okay, that's very interesting, and just bear that in mind. Now, remember, in that trailer, it has something called "Hope Never Dies." I want you to remember that. Now, I want you to remember, process these things, keep them inside of your mind, keep them inside of your head. Okay, remember what I just said about hope never dies. Let me just check out something in the chat section for a minute there, just to make sure that audio on this thing is going well. I want you guys to hear me. So I'm hoping you guys can hear me. Let me see. Keep them inside of your head, okay? Okay, cool. All right. So I'm just making sure everything's on here and working, okay? All right. So hope never dies. Remember that. Now, there's two things to remember, okay? Sunlight behind Superman, kind of look like a saint, and then hope never dies. Because in the context of what I just told you guys about here, I'm going to roll it back a little bit. Remember this story right here, and we're talking about Clark Kent and how Clark Kent, you know, he's a dude who, you know, is trying to find himself, identity. And some of you guys may have dreams and visions from when you were younger, and you kind of had to abandon them, or you had to give them up, and you kind of died, right? And you were just moving along, right? Remember, hope never dies, okay? Just remember that. Sunlight behind Superman. I'm getting to something. Trust me, I'm getting to something here. So, you know what's beautiful about this photo that I found very interesting? It's a little bit more on the trivial side of things. This photo is quite similar to a couple photos of Superman in the movie and his trilogy, okay? And one of them is at the end of Justice League, where Superman is seen at the end of Justice League. I just superimposed Superman's figure in on the figure that we had. And if you look, his pose is very similar. I'm not saying it's identical, but it's very similar to the pose here. Have a look at it. And this was Superman when he's up on top of the wall. Let me just show you exactly where it was. It's from this scene here in Justice League. Let me blow it up a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. This was the scene where Superman, his cape is doing something a little bit different, but look at the angle at which he's at. Okay, now he's with the League. Okay, all right. So I just found this was pretty interesting that pose is very similar to this pose. It's very similar. Okay, very similar. Now, why that's important is because remember that ad actually came from this. Right? You can't save the world alone. Hope never dies. Okay. So what happened was in the beginning of the ad, we start off with Superman here. He can crystallizes. They crystallize him. You got the sun in the background. He's shining around. He's like the star. You know what I'm saying? And then you see hope never dies. Then you see him, and he goes into a white silhouette. Okay. He goes into a white silhouette here. Right? This white silhouette. And then we get the other players for the Justice League coming around him. And then we end up with a scene that looks like this. All the members of the League. I mean, you have everybody there. Let me show you. Well, you're going to see a piece of Aquaman there. Okay. And hope never dies. In fact, what's interesting about that ad is it talks about how things are getting very dark, but there's no reason to fear, right? Now, what's interesting about that whole thing anyway is when you look at it, there's this white silhouette. A white silhouette of light amidst the darkness. I want you to remember that. I want you to remember there was a white silhouette of light against the darkness. I want you to remember that. Remember, hope never dies. Superman, you know, you seeing him shining out like the sun. And now here he is shining out like the sun again. A white silhouette against the darkness. Light coming through, almost like a keyhole, right? There's just light outside. But it's not light outside. Well, I'll show you a little bit more. I'll show you a little bit more. Remember this? Remember that? Think about what I'm saying now. Think about what I'm saying now. This is from the Kryptonian ship from Man of Steel. Think about what I'm saying. Think about what I'm saying. Because you got to think about what I'm saying now. when Superman is coming out the Kryptonian ship, there's light inside the ship. It's shining. Think about what I'm saying now. I want you to think about what I'm saying. I want you to think about what I'm saying. This is not as intuitive as you think. Zack Snyder is very intentional about what he's doing. I'm gonna show you some more. Justice League. What happened? When Superman is appearing on the scene, there's light coming out of the ship. Let me say that again, because I know a lot of people are not grasping what I'm saying. I'm going to say it again. Think about what I'm saying. I'm not just talking out of void. There's light coming out of the ship. Why should there be light coming out of the ship? Shouldn't light be going into the ship? Not coming out of the ship? Think about what I'm saying. All right, let's go back. I want you guys to think about what I'm saying. I don't say anything. I'm not a flippant dude. Look at Superman here. Oh, that's the one from Justice League. Let's look at this one. What do you see about Superman? There's light radiating, right? Let's look at another from the ad. Superman. Let's pay attention now. Pay attention now. There's light, but where is it coming from? It's not coming from outside. It's coming from within Superman, radiating out of Superman. Radiating out of Superman. I want you guys to understand what I'm saying because this is important. Let me see if you guys are in the chat section. All right. Okay. We got some people watching now. You guys are blessed. You guys are blessed because what you're about to hear here, you know, even if you're not no Christian or nothing, it's going to be big. For the Christian folk, this is huge for you guys. This is big. I want you guys to pay attention to what I'm saying. But people who are not Christian folk, it's still going to be huge. You're going to understand it in time. It's going to make plenty of sense in time. Maybe it makes sense to you right now. But this is huge what I'm about to say. Huge. And this is totally different. Let me just say, this is totally different to any superhero approach ever done by any superhero director ever. Because it's gutsy. All right? This is huge, what I'm telling you guys. This is not something to be taken lightly. All right? I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page because I'm not just talking things out of a void. All right. I want to make sure everybody understands what I'm about to say because this is very important to everybody. That's why I came. And I said, I'm not going to read no scripture this morning like in the conventional way before I go to this video because I thought I was compelled. I said, this is a video I have to put up online. This is an important video, very important video. So I'm taking my time. All right. So let's go back to what I said before. And I'm not the be all and end all knowledge, by the way. I just want you to pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. Okay. Zack Snyder is a guy promoting the core, rock hard Christian values. And what I'm about to tell to Christians, particularly at this point in time, so they would get the point, because I'm speaking to two sets of people. I'm speaking to people who believe and have held on to what is called Christian values. And I'm also talking to people who may not know about those things, or they might have heard about it in a superficial way, whatever. I'm talking to two different sets of people right now. Okay? Two different sets of people. But I thank Zack Snyder. I thank this brother for what he did. Because what he did is something that I cannot put into words. But he did not put into words, but he showed via picture. And my mind was blown for a second when I checked it out. And when I started to look at what really is going on here. Okay. So I'm gonna try and do this the best way I know how. Okay. Let me do it all over. You see, Whedon messed it up a bit here. This picture wasn't supposed to be this. Okay. This wasn't supposed to have no red sky behind it like that. Whedon messed it up a bit. I saw what Zack was going for. If you guys know from the trailer, the very first Justice League trailer, you would have seen the Justice League behind a yellow to golden sky. Remember that? A yellow to golden sky. Zack was going for something different to what the ending ended up in Justice League. It was probably the same picture, whatever, but we messed it up. He did something different with it. And it's okay. That's all right. That's all right. I'm gonna still show y'all what it is. I'm gonna show y'all what it is. Zack's very intentional about what he does. Very, very intentional about what he does. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Okay, so I want you guys to pay attention. I'm gonna go all the way back here, and I'm gonna roll back forward before I finish off what I have to say. I just want to make it clear. Clark Kent starts off with what? An identity crisis, right? Clark Kent starts off with an identity crisis. We talked about that. You know, slightly trivial, but we're, you know. And then I told you guys to pay attention to the sun here. We're talking to the sun. Very important. I said sun. I notice I'm not being ambiguous here. The sun. Pay attention to the sun, right? I'm being very specific here, and I keep on emphasizing this point over and over again. And some of y'all might be annoyed that I'm emphasizing this over and over and over again. I understand, but I want you guys to understand. Pay attention to the sun. I want to be obvious what I'm doing. I want it to be as obvious as possible, because when I get to the bottom line of this, you're going to understand why I said what I said. All right, so pay attention to the sun. You remember the Kryptonian ship? It's like the Fortress of Solitude, kind of like, but this is where Superman becomes Superman, right? This is where he finds out who he is. When he becomes Superman, what do you realize in this ad? Superman, he is, but notice the sun. Very important. The sun is radiating. Some people think it's radiating behind him, but is it radiating behind him? Is it radiating behind him? That's what we were trying to get a conclusion of that. And we realized, no, it's not radiating behind him, right? We realized that the sun, which has to do with hope never dying, which has to do with you and me, no matter where we are in life, no matter what position we are in life, hope never dies. Whatever your dreams were, whatever your visions were for yourself, hope never dies. Not only that, but it's a little bit bigger. The hope is a little bit bigger than that. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, we can't do everything at once. So hope never dies. We're talking about you and me in this case. Let's go on. Notice Superman standing on top of a platform. There are steps here. I'm assuming that this particular set piece here is not this particular set piece where Superman is standing on top of this platform here. But I do believe this is Heroes Park, and those are the steps to Heroes Park, and Superman standing on top of that. So slightly different to this, but you notice the similarity in posture and pose of Superman, right? And then we came back and we said, look, now they removed Superman for a minute here. Remember, you can't save the world, Lord. You see the silhouette of Superman, but it is a white silhouette against a black background. Now it seems to be saying that light is coming from, when you look at it, it's as if that this is an entrance way where outside is light. But actually, it's inside of Superman. That's how we know the radiation from Superman here, the radiation from Superman here is coming from within him. Okay, we know that's coming from within him. Now, that's very important, because what we see when Superman became Superman and he came out, when Superman became Superman, there was the sun, right? The sun was shining down on that ship, right? That scout ship, right? The sun was shining down. The sun was shining down on the scout ship, right? Then Superman became Superman, right? Now we know Superman is a light source. He's like a star. He's like a beacon of light, right? He's like a beacon of light, right? Even in Justice League, you heard Bruce Wayne say, you know, Superman was like a beacon to the world, right? He was like a beacon. Now, it wasn't a beacon was shining around him. Oh, he was reflecting a beacon. This is very important for people to understand what I'm saying here. He's not reflecting a beacon. He is the beacon. Okay? Okay then. Because see, I want to make sure you get that. I want to make sure all of you get that, because a lot of you you're still not listening to me. You know, a lot of you cognitively you're saying yes, but you're not understanding what I'm saying. You're still not understanding what I'm saying. So I'm gonna explain it directly to you in words you can understand in a minute. So you can't save the world alone, okay? And that you see Superman's like that beacon, right? He's like that light shining, silhouetted against the darkness. Silhouetted against the darkness. And then we see other beacons of light come around him. Wonder Woman, Batman, the Flash is pointing to him, Cyborg, and Aquaman. And they are also beacons of light feeding off of that beacon of light, okay? So here he is, right? Now that's very important. Because like I said to you guys before, when you look at the scout ship, that light ain't coming from outside the ship. That's coming from inside the ship. Now, if Superman's a beacon of light, then he's the one lighting up the inside of the ship, correct? He's the one lighting up the inside of the ship. And Zack Snyder was very particular about that. He was very particular about that. All right? He was very particular about it. Not only in Man of Steel, but the deleted scene of Justice League. Zack Snyder wanted that particular scene emphasized. Now, what do we know about Batman v Superman? When was Batman v Superman done? What was the date? Easter weekend, right? I want you guys to remember this because this is something very important I'm trying to say. Easter weekend was Batman v Superman. Now, Justice League came out November 17th of 2017, which is at the end of the year. The end of the year. Remember that. I want you guys to remember these things. I'm not just talking out of the top of my butt. I don't ever say nothing out of the top of my, I'm saying something that makes sense. So listen. So November 17th of 2017, at the end of the year, Justice League came out. This was supposed to be in Justice League, right? Now, besides the fact that the iconography here, where Superman, he strikes a pose in both instances, which are very similar to this silhouette here, there is something else deeper that Zack Snyder is saying. Very specific. And this is what I want to emphasize. There's a reason why the light is coming from within the ship twice and not from outside the ship. And for me to better explain that to you guys, I will have to sort of speed along my way here to the concept that most Christians in Christendom believe. And then I'm going to throw it on its head and make you guys understand why that is not the answer. Okay, so first, a lot of us talk about Easter morning, about Jesus when he was risen on Easter morning. And everybody loves to talk about the empty tomb. And then we have, you know, you always see the grave. But when we see the grave, we're always seeing it from the inside. And there's light shining in on the grave. In fact, a lot of people believe that, in fact, it was some sort of lightning or something that came, an angel came down from heaven like lightning, rolled away the stone, and Jesus came out. And that's all well and good, and that's all well and cool, you know, but that's not the whole story. And so the thing about the resurrection that's totally different to what everybody has ever talked to you guys about, and why I had to emphasize over and over and over again in any DCEU movie where Superman was involved, where he came out of the Kryptonian ship, is because what I'm about to tell you guys about is something that you may not have fully understood about your own self. That is, you guys who profess to be Christians and profess to be sons of God. And also of those of you who think you understand what Jesus is. All right? Because a lot of you guys think you understand what Jesus is, but I'm about to tell you what he is. Literally. And now, of course, this is not everything to him. But my point is, I'm going to tell you what Jesus is. And what Zack Snyder, I don't know if he cognitively realized this or if he cognitively realized this. Okay. But he visually depicted this. And this is very important. The resurrection of Jesus Christ. This is so important. The resurrection of Jesus Christ. When Jesus Christ was resurrected, inside the tomb irradiated light. Let me say that again. See, there's a lot of things people don't understand, but I'm going to hit you with you guys. I'm going to hit you with something that I know the, if you go and you watch the earliest parts of Christendom, and even the Roman Catholic Church at a certain point had understood this, and they actually put it out there. And the earlier dioceses and the earlier Catholicism, because we had Catholicism before Roman Catholicism, and the earlier stuff. And by and by they diluted it down and down and down and down. They never really hit you with this part. All right. But see, what people forget to talk about is the fact that inside the tomb irradiated light. All right. The light didn't come from outside the tomb. And there's a reason why the light came from inside the tomb. And I'm going to tell y'all why. And this is the part that a lot of people hear. They talk a lot. They say a lot. But they don't understand what they're talking about. So let me hit you guys with this here. So when Mary came to Jesus because her brother Lazarus was dead, right? When she came to Jesus, she said, "Man, Master, if you was only here, Lazarus would have been alive." And Jesus said, "Don't worry, Lazarus will rise again." And she was just, "Yes, Master, I understand. In the last day, he will be raised again." And Jesus said to her, "Martha, you got to understand, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he dies, yet he will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" And she said, she was like, "Yeah, yeah." And she walks away. She has no clue what he just said. I want to just, I think a lot of you all don't, there's no clue what he just said. All right. None. Now, just so you guys will understand directly what I'm about to say, and that I'm showing you, first of all, I'm going to show you in DC law. I'm going to show you in DC law what this means. And then I'm going to show you, I just want you to understand that the DC law is very clear on this thing that I'm talking to you guys about. Then I'm going to show you from Judeo-Christian history what I'm talking about, so that you clear that the Judeo-Christian is very clear on this. And I think I'll even show you from Krypton, okay? The current television series. Now, it's very important to understand what I'm saying. You see, I've been taking a lot of time to explain this, because there's a difference between being a son of God and just a child of God. It's a totally different thing altogether. All right. So let me keep it rolling. Let me keep it rolling so you guys can understand. So let's go to the DC law for a second. Let's roll back to the DC law. Where are we? I think we got to go this way. Let's roll back to the DC law. All right. Okay. So in the DC law, Superman, we're using Superman because Superman's he's like an analog of Jesus, right? And Zack made it so clear it's not funny. But Superman comes from the planet Krypton. And the foremost one true god of Krypton, according to Krypton, the television series, is Ra-O. Ra-O. Ra-O or Ra-O. Ra-O looks like this. This is the depiction of Ra-O from Krypton. And this is the depiction of Ra-O from the comics. Okay? And you can see they're very similar, right? Now, the thing about Ra-O is Ra-O, which is the DC Comics, Jack Kirby's, no, not Jack Kirby. The DC Comics way of depicting is the god of the sun god. I want you to make it, DC's very clear on the sun, okay? The sun god, that's for Krypton, Superman. Where did they come with this from? Egyptian mythology, or Egyptian, whatever you want to call it, says that Ra is the sun god. He was largely worshipped in Heliopolis, which was the cult place for ancient Egypt. Ra is the sun god. Now, I want to make it abundantly clear. DC pulled it from Egyptian mythology or Egyptian culture, Egyptian history. Why is that important? That is important because when we look at the sun, here's the earth here, the sun is a ball of fire. The sun is a ball of fire. Energy. This picture that was taken via a high-powered telescope had to eliminate all of the other light energies to be able to see the intense ball of fire that makes up the sun. It's a special sort of film that they used to take this picture. And you can see here, there's explosions happening off the surface of the sun all the time. Huge explosions. Explosions bigger than any planet. Massive explosions all the time off the surface of the sun. But what do we know about the sun? For our Earth, for our solar system, it is the source from which all life depends and comes from. Right? I hope we're on the same page so far, because I got a ways to go, baby. TNJ Ayala, shout out to you, my brother. TNJ Ayala, I'm coming back to you guys. Coming back to you in a minute. What was that? Oh, yeah. I'm coming back to you in a minute. But I got so much to say still. So let's unpack it really cool and nice and easy. So what we find is the sun in the sky that you see radiates light. Radiates light. Is the source of light. Let's go back to Superman for a minute. So that's from Superman's home world. Now, what do we know about Superman? We know that Superman feeds off the sun. Feeds off the solar energy. Emits solar energy, right? He feeds off the sun. So what we know is that Superman absorbs that sunlight. And then when we see Superman finally presented, he's emitting that light to the world. Now, I always tell, now let's go back to the very first thing we were talking about. Not the very, okay, we're going to go to the very first thing. Let's go to the very first thing. The very first thing was Clark's identity. He did not know who he was. Okay? He did not know who he was. Dreams and all these visions, seeing the world's passing by and blah, blah, blah. You know, and like I said before, you and I, we're similar in that respect, in that a lot of us don't really know who we are. Some of us know whose we are. We'll tell you we're children of God, or I'm a son of this person. I'm the son of Paul Phillip, or I'm the son of this or the son of that. We can tell you that. We can tell you what we're good at. I'm good at doing this. I'm good at doing that. But when it comes to who we actually are, a lot of us don't really know that. We think we do. We call ourselves different names, right? I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm a Muslim. I'm this. Those are labels. That doesn't tell you who you are. It might tell you a little bit about your belief system, but it don't summarize who you are. You may even call yourself by your name. I'm Anson, or I'm Jim, or I'm Thomas. That describes an aspect of you, but it does not describe who you are. So we're going to get to that now. Now we're going to start breaking it down, because we talk about identity crisis. A lot of people think that, it's all about, purpose and so on. But I'm about to take it to another level. I'm about to take it to another level, because all of us are underperforming to our potential. There is a potential you have that you're not performing at. And we're about to go there. We're about to go there today. First of all, let me just check out and see what's happening. Now, when I start to shake up things, it really shakes up. the place starts to get shaken up. And I'm not about to stop right now. So I'm looking to see if my internet access is about to disappear or something weird is about to happen, because I know what could happen here. So here we go. So he didn't know who he was. But then he found out who he was at the North Pole. At the North Pole, he found out that he was not of this world. He found out what his purpose was. But more importantly, he found out that he was a beacon to the world, that he was a sun. Why that's important is because when we see Kal-El for the first time step out in his Superman uniform, we see him as a beacon of light, as a star, which is captured here. And we realize that hope never dies. You cannot destroy hope. And so we get past all of this. So this here summarizes that Kal-El is a sun. And Zack Snyder is the only comic book director I've ever seen to capture sonship. That's what he's talking about. You know, Kal-El is not separate from any Christian, because any Christian believes, Christians supposedly believe, at least most of them are supposed to believe, that we are not of this world. We live in it. We look like everybody else. But we don't believe in what everybody else believes. We don't subscribe to what everybody else subscribes to. And we become a beacon of hope to the world. That is why Zack Snyder flipped the script with Superman. And he shows light against darkness. This is a beacon here. And a beacon has to generate its own light. The light comes from within it. It does not come from outside it. So sonship is a powerful principle. Now I'm going to show you. So that is why Zack Snyder portrayed Superman. When we first see him in his costume, the first thing we see is we see the doors open. And if you paid attention, the circle of this orifice here that's holding him is circular, like a halo. And on top of that, the doors are being pulled apart like if it's a stone being rolled away. In short, what I'm saying is Superman emerges from a cocoon, from the pupal stage. He comes out of the tomb that encases him. He does it not once, but twice. The first Superman film came out in June. The second Superman film came out in Easter. The third Superman film came out around Christmas. I don't know how many Christian folk was following that. When the day star is born in our hearts, is a scripture that is written, we're changed. That has to do with Christmas. Zack Snyder chose to focus on the death of Jesus around Easter. And Man of Steel, which came out, I believe it's June the 6th, somewhere thereabouts, he decided to talk about the reign, the birthing and reign of Superman. Okay? Now, here's the other thing I want to show you guys. I'm going to emphasize now the point I want to emphasize to you guys. When you look at Superman coming out of the Kryptonian ship, both times, It is very much symbolic of Jesus coming out of the tomb. Now, this particular picture that I'm showing you here, this particular depiction of Jesus coming out of the tomb is very, very interesting for a number of reasons. This particular artist really went pretty deep with it. So here's Jesus coming out of the tomb, right? On either side, there are two angels. They are bowing with their faces down. They have their swords drawn, and they are looking towards the ground as Jesus comes out. On your left-hand side, you will see Moses holding up the 10 Commandments. On your right-hand side, you will see the prophets of Elijah and then some other prophets in the back, John the Baptist. Now, it's very important to understand what I'm saying. So for me to draw an analog to that, so again, those of you in Christendom may understand what I'm saying. We go to the Jewish, like I said, we're going to do Judeo-Christian. We went to the Greek mythology. We went to Egyptian mythology. We went to DC mythology. Now we're going across the Judeo-Christian. So if you know anything about Judeo-Christian history, the Jewish people had something called the Ark of the Covenant, which was found inside of the temple of the Jewish people. Now, if you pay attention here, you will see on either side of the top of the ark, we had what is known as the cherubims. Again, their faces down, they kneel, their wings extended. In between the cherubims, what was known as the Shekinah glory. The Shekinah glory. This is indicated here by this light that is shining here. The Shekinah glory was just above the mercy seat, which is this part here. You know what? Let me show you in better detail in a diagram that actually explains everything. So here we have the cherubims with their wings touching each other. In between them is the Shekinah glory, and this is above the mercy seat. Okay, these are the wings of the cherubims, so they touch each other. Then you have the ark box, which is the Ark of the Covenant, encases, and there's the staves that hold the ark here. And inside of the ark were the following things. You had the 10 Commandments, also known as the testimonies. We had Aaron's rod that budded. We had the law of Moses, which was his set of ceremonial laws. And then we had the manna. All right. You have manna. The manna is known as the bread of life. It was also known as bread from heaven. Jesus calls himself the bread of life. He calls himself the bread from heaven. He calls himself the manna. The law of Moses and the 10 Commandments, the Decalogue, which we saw on the side here. I want to show you guys this so you guys can see it. See, this is Moses here and the Decalogue on the side is testimony to the resurrection of Jesus. The resurrection of Jesus. Okay. Going on, Aaron's rod that budded. The important thing is that this rod is an inanimate object and life came from it. It's called the life, again encapsulated here in the resurrection of Jesus. He's showing that he is the life, the resurrection and the life. Remember, Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. And of course, the 10 Commandments, for which is every word that proceeds out the mouth of God, which Jesus is as well. He epitomizes that. The Shekinah glory that we saw at the top, right here, this glory here, it's again radiating light. Jesus is the Shekinah glory. You see him come out. That's why the light came out from within the tomb. It wasn't just outside of the tomb. Yes, of course, some light came outside of the tomb because the angel came down from heaven like lightning as well. But we're talking about from within the tomb came light. And why? We just talked about it. The Son is the source of all life. And if Jesus is the source of all life, then of course light's going to come from within the tomb because Jesus is life itself. Jesus said to the law and to the prophets, if they keep not according to this word, there is no light in them. And he's talking about these prophets here. They're the prophets witnessing it. There's Moses witnessing it, because all of these things foreshadowed the resurrection of Jesus Christ. His death is important, but what people do not talk a lot about is his resurrection, which is even more important than his death, because if he didn't rise, we'd be all messed up. We'd be gone through. We'd be history. It's because he rose from the dead. And this is the point I'm trying to make. Jesus is not a man. So Jesus is life itself. When Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life, he's literally speaking about life. What you're breathing right now is Jesus. Your existence is because of Jesus, literally. Even talking, Jesus talked like a man, but he's speaking beyond the boundaries of a human. So that's why he could say, I lay down my life and I'll take it back up again. This is something beyond, you know, we talk about Jesus, which is, the word really means God saves, but nonetheless, we talk about Jesus as if he's just a man. We talk about God as if God is a man like us. No. No. God is beyond all those kinds of things to the very fabric of existence, the template of existence. What we call life, that's God. What we call resurrection, that's God. I want you guys to understand. A lot of people try to make God into some image of a human. Like he's human like us. No. It's beyond all of that stuff. Now, I tell you guys, sons of God are not the same thing as children of God. It's because it goes beyond humans. Sons of God goes beyond humans and humanity. It's way beyond that stuff. Okay, so you were created as a human. That's one thing. But now you are elevated to being a son of God. That means you get a chance to ascend beyond being just a human being forever. That's a whole other ball game, folks. And I wanted to be absolutely clear that you emit light now. As God emits light, as Christ emit light, now you emit light. That's why I said we're not living up to our potential. I'm not talking about physical light, folks. So please stop that. I'm not talking about physical light. You know, when Stephen was being stoned, a halo came over his head. Right? But I'm not talking about physical light. Obviously, I'm talking about spiritual light here, which is a hell of a lot greater than physical light can ever be. Trust me. When you see what spiritual light is, it's crazy. Okay? As I said before, when Jesus came out the tomb was ablaze with light. You know, I'll give you guys another understanding so you will understand what I'm saying. A lot of us think, you know, as you die, you're going to see a tunnel, and at the end of it is light at the end of the tunnel. No. Flip that script. Flip that script. Flip it. You are the light of the world, said Jesus. You may be in a dark tunnel, but it ain't going to stay dark for long because you are in it. You are the source of the light. You don't have to move to a source of light anymore because you are the source of light. Like I said before, this is very important. You got to understand what we're talking about now. This is a totally different paradigm shift. It's a different way of thinking. Lots of you guys are hiding in the shadows. But if you are a beacon of light, you can't hide it under a bushel. What happens to a beacon of light if it's hidden under a bushel? Oh, it'll start to flame up the bushel. It'll light it a fire. You get more light. A light source can't hide. You cannot hide. Because light cannot hide in darkness. It just becomes more apparent it's light. Okay. So now I wanted to say that to make you guys understand, we ain't talking about something that gets light from somewhere else. Christ is now in you, the hope of glory. If Christ is in you, you ain't going to be dark. It can't happen. You're going to radiate light out of you. I'm not talking about Christ going through you now. You know, he passing from external source coming out and no. He's in you. That's the difference between a son and just a simple child of God. A child of God just means you're created from God. Your creation. A son of God? Oh, you're a little bit more than that now. You are a life source to the world. You're a lot more than just a creation. Somebody's hearing me, because it's totally different. You're emitting light. That's different to reflecting light. That makes you dangerous to those who want to live in darkness. They can't stand it. If you was just reflecting light, they could deflect your light. But when you are a light source, you know, so you guys will understand a little bit more, God is referred to as a consuming fire. Guess what that fire is consuming? It's having darkness for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Light consumes darkness. Another place it's written in scripture, God is light. There is no darkness in him at all. I want you to understand what I'm saying. Whether you are Christian or not, but more so to the Christian folk at this present point in time, you are the light of the world. You are a source of light. Let me say it again, because a lot of people don't want to hear this, but I'm going to say it again because I told you it's very important. You are a source of light. Your purpose for being since you have been reborn is to shine that light. That is your purpose. That is the essence of your being. How you go about shining that light will have to do with your skills and abilities and gifts and all of that stuff that God's given you. But now, there is no escaping it. You cannot hide in the shadows anymore. You will not be allowed to hide in the shadows because you can't. The only way is to become darkness again. And that's not possible if you're holding on to Christ. So I said this because I want you to understand the potential you have. None of us are living up to our full potential. But irregardless, wherever we go, there's fire and light. It's unavoidable. And that is why Zack Snyder could not deny Jesus in his trilogy. Oh, yes, Joss Whedon tried to murk that thing up. There's too much Jesus up in there. It's a very heavy testimony of Jesus Christ this brother put down in science fiction, pointing to the true hero, the real superhero. The moment when he triumphed over all principalities and powers, his resurrection. That's why Paul talks about the resurrection and believing in it. They say without the resurrection, we all lost. We're history. But because of the resurrection, we are resurrected. That's what baptism is all about, ladies and gentlemen. It is not going down into the murky depths to rise up to the light. No. You went down with the light, which is why you could rise up with the light. You couldn't stay down because of the light that was given to you. That's why no fiery trial will ever overcome you, because you are a child of the light. You are a son. Whichever son you want to pick, S-O-N, S-U-N, it doesn't matter. They are all beacons of light of God. The fulfillment of prophecy and the law had to do with this point. And you and I, who believe in Jesus, that's what we know. That's what's accessed to us. So now let's get to phenomenology. Every single thing you saw and read that Jesus did, every single thing, you can do. That's right. Every single thing that Jesus did on this earth, you can do. Everything that Jesus has said on this earth, you can say. Now you understand why you're not living up to your potential? Those of you who are Christians. Now let's talk about the people who are not Christians or don't know what they are, whatever. You have a potential as well. Each and every one of you to lighten up the corner where you are. To brighten. You have a potential beyond what you even could conceive in your mind. And what's interesting is Justice Lee paints the picture that I find so fantastic, because it says you can't save the world alone. That in and of itself says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. I want you to think about that for a minute. That's what thou shalt have no other gods before me means. I was watching at Injustice, Gods Among Us. And I remember the Flash speaking to Green Lantern about hero worship. How the world had went off course with Superman after Lois Lane had been killed, because the other heroes began to worship Superman and follow him blindly. Hero worship. And as individuals who understand what I'm talking about, we understand the significance of not worshiping idols. Not having idols in people because of their gifts and their potential and what they've done. And mankind has, through the ages, continuously over and over and over and over again, made idols out of people. And we see in the modern day superhero story, people deify their idols. They deify Aquaman, Wonder Woman. You see them do pictures of them, and they have all these stuff to them. I even watched people idolize other superheroes. Talk about Iron Man, Batman, and Captain America, and blah, 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 blah. Idols. We make idols out of people. Let me just make sure this is going on and on. So I want to make sure. I want to make sure I hit the nail on the head here. Okay, I see some of you guys are here. Oli JL says, yo, they released the first look at black manga for Aquaman. Oli J says, I'll let you react to it. And Nimish PK says, yo, shout out to you, Oli JL, and shout out to you, Nimish. That's cool, man. And they got the black manga. out for Aquaman. That's cool. That's cool. Apparently, my chat has been disconnected. It is successfully connected now. They cut me off YouTube and they've just brought me back on. I do not know how many times the internet has gone on and off, and I'll tell you why. I don't know, because I know I was saying some very important things. I don't know how much of this video actually makes it into the cut and what doesn't make it. But I know I was telling you guys some very important things. And I know that the spirits and the powers that be would love me not to say these things. But I'm going to say them anyway. So like I said before, idols. No one individual. You know, in Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman talks about love saving the world. Don't worship me. I'm just trying to help bring, you know, the world along. And Patty Jenkins was really cool at emphasizing the point that you and me and everyone else, we can want to have that attitude of love saving the world. You look at Batman, who fails as a hero. Everybody's like, Batman, don't do that. But you know what was cool about it? The ideal was better than Batman. When we look at Superman and what Superman represents, the ideal is better than Superman. That's why I'll always have respect for Zack Snyder in that respect, because he actually pointed to Jesus. And then you always say, but Jesus is a man. No, he's not. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying Jesus is not limited to a person or anything. Jesus is limited to life itself, to resurrection, to these qualities of love, joy, peace, those kinds of things. Jesus is not a man. Jesus is as invisible as they come. That's what I'm saying to you guys. That is the ideals. It's the qualities that are Jesus. That's what saves us. But it was embodied in a human. So we could see it in a human like ourselves. That human could also, in humanoid form, overcome certain things that we, as human beings, did not overcome. And pass it on to us. But it's not for us to go around worshiping Jesus the man. It's to go around worshiping that God saves. It's spiritual attributes. That's why Jesus isn't here with us right now as a man. You ever ask yourself, why don't we have Jesus with us right now? He's a human being. Well, people would get distracted from the attributes and the qualities that are important, and then focus on Jesus, the human. And it would have gone off course. So I share this with you guys because I want you guys to live to your full potential, man, as sons of God. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me see what else you guys are saying here, because some of you guys, Vegathon says, sorry, late to the chat. What's the topic? Well, you know, Vegathon, shout out to you, my brother. I have to stay, as you came on the scene, I have to step away and I have to go my merry way. But I'm about to wrap it up, Vegathon. But you can go ahead and just rewatch the stream and the chat. Let me come out of this so you guys can see my face for a minute. So you guys can see the stream and the chat. I was just spending time talking to you guys. This is about sonship, pretty much. But as you can see from the topic, it's Superman, DC Comics, and Zack Snyder's emphasis on particular things that I was talking about. And some of the stuff is trivial, and some of the stuff is you know, we spent some time in it. But I always felt that the DC lore was actually building off of building off of Judeo-Christocentric themes. And Zack pretty much centered that direction with his movies. So I'm glad that you guys joined in this chat and this discussion. Understand what sonship is. For those of you who, profess to be Christian, it's a whole different ballgame than you think. And the potential is immense, what you can do. Remember, I want you guys to remember this one thing. The Son gives life. And it's written in Scripture. The Son has the power to give life and has the power that anyone who believes him to have that power to give life also. It's written in the Scripture. I paraphrased it, but it's written in Scripture. And as a son of God, when you're born of God, again, you're a son of God. You have the power to give life. In addition, you have the power to heal. You have the power to do all kinds of things. Create. A lot of us are creative, and we say we're born in the image and likeness of God, and we're children of God, and we created because of that. And that's all well and good. That's cool. But I'm talking about create on a whole other level. I'm not just talking about being creative, but create on a whole other level. And it's a different life. That's why I said we're not living up to our full potential yet, but we will. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Once again, I hope this empowers communities. I hope this empowers you. I hope this also empowers Christendom, because a lot of you guys probably never realized that Jesus literally is the life, and literally life comes from him, and that literally he raised his own self back up from the grave. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys. The light came from inside, not from outside. I want you guys to understand what I'm saying, because I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying. So, what does that mean for you? It means even if you have what you think are broken dreams or broken this or broken that, whatever, a lot of people like to go with these sad stories, whatever. In spite of all those things, you have the potential to not only launch out those dreams and make those things a reality, but also you have the power to spark life into everybody else who has to live to their potential. You get that power, like the Son has the power to bring back life. And so in the story of Superman, where he's rebirthed, you will notice again, and let me just draw your attention to it. When he comes back to life, he not only restores the hope for his life, but he restores the hope for many other lives. Go back here. So you can see visually, this mirrors the resurrection of Jesus Christ, okay? Visually. But what I'm trying to show you is when he came back to life, he literally brought to life all of these other people along with him. We like to focus on the day of Pentecost, a lot of us. But what I'm trying to tell you is that it goes beyond Pentecost with the 12 disciples. This is half of them, and 6. It goes beyond Pentecost to now, you, me. And it's not the same as like the prophets of old. We have the power to save people and restore life to people. The prophets long ago, we know Elijah brought back the life of the little kid and so on. And we're talking about restore life to a level where we're eternal beings. We're no longer limited to just being humans. That's what I'm talking about. It's a whole other level. So I hope that this you guys enjoyed this. Let me get back out of this. And I'm pretty much finished right here. Some of you guys are going to talk about some other things. And somebody just said that Black Manta's appearance and costume was revealed today. I will check that out later on, guys. I hope you guys are excited for the DCU and all of that, and that's all well and good. But I wanted to just give a bigger picture. Vegathon says, I would think Batman is one of those people. Yes, of course, he was one of the. He's reborn. Absolutely. But also we had Wonder Woman, whose life was transformed. She came out of the shadows, became a beacon of light. Batman's out there. We have Cyborg, who came out of the shadows. He embraced his family, and he's now a beacon of light. We also have Aquaman going back home to be a beacon of light to his family. And Flash, of course, got a job. He's a beacon of light to his father. So yeah, all of them are up and firing on all cylinders now. And the point is, because of Superman. But the point is, beyond Superman, to the ultimate Superman, the ultimate superhero, Jesus Christ. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Because of Jesus, all of us now have the potential to be beacons of light everywhere we go. We are actually living testimonies of hope. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Vegathon and Company Limited. I wanted to share that with you. Let me just shout out you guys before I get out of here. Vegathon, shout out to you. Nimish PK, shout out to you. Oli JL, shout out to you. TNJ Ayala, shout out to you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. So much I wanted to say other than that, but I'll leave that for another time. I talked long enough. Dave Ethan, shout out to you. Shout out to all the other people out there. Remember, guys, those of you, especially those of you who claim to be Christian, understand the potential inside of you. All right. You got the literal life and the resurrection power inside of you. That language is still so weak, but nonetheless, life. You know, all of us have life in us, right? But I'm talking about you have the potential to create life, to bring back life. You have the potential to do that kind of thing through just to speaking. That's the potential you have inside of you, literally. Okay. Vegathon, Shazam, Green Lantern, not sure who the additional 6 would be. Yeah, okay, man, my dude, I see you want to talk some more. I got to split, though, bro. I got to split. So leave your comments if you want to continue talking in the comment section. Chat away as long as you want. I got to get out of here, though, guys. Much love to you guys. If you guys ever want to, you can always replay this video to see what it was all about. I wanted to keep that emphasis on sonship. No, nothing else. Sonship. Okay, sonship. And when you guys reflect on what I said about, the light coming from within the tomb outwards, I want you guys to reflect on that. That was literally Christ himself. That was power coming from him. Didn't come from something external to him. And similarly, the power comes from within you when Christ is inside of you, not something external from you. It's very, very, very powerful. It cannot be hidden. There's nowhere to hide. And you're not just a human being anymore. I want you to understand this. This is a spiritual language, but nonetheless, you're not just a human anymore. That's what guys talk about, the aliens. I'm an alien. I came from outer space. That's what Zack Snyder was so happy to do Man of Steel, because he knew that this is the Christian experience. All right. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Blessings to you all. I got to go. Peace. We'll talk a little bit more about this some other time. Have a blessed one.